Hello there, this is Rom coming back at you with yet another car video. There are many men outside the player's world trying to tell you about the game. Let me put it like that. And it's a bunch of guys knowing outside of the world. And let me shout out two players. One is no longer with us, Player Supreme. He talked about this well over a decade ago about guys who aren't players and they trying to tell you the game. And then let me shout out Mr. Lucario. I saw a clip on IG where this dude was trying to tell him about how billionaires getting to find women just because of money, just because of their money. And I'm gonna be real with you. Yeah, they getting something, but as I always say, double back home one day. Plus, I know this dude who was actually paid by some billionaires to keep their wives satisfied. But that's another conversation. But I was thinking about that. It's not so much about that issue, but you get a lot of guys, they really don't know the game. They're on the outside of it. Like with that money thing, you get some guys, they thinking, oh, it takes money to get women, but they don't have money themselves. And I think I did have one guy said he was getting women because he had money, but, that's about it. Usually I don't have somebody saying that. And it's not even just a money thing. That's not even the main thing. You get guys saying, oh, you got to be 6'2" to get a woman. But they ain't getting a woman. Meanwhile, you get some guys who are that height and they having trouble. Or my favorite one, they say, oh, you got to be handsome. But how many men say they looking for handsome man game? If they looking for handsome man game, they ain't getting to play, are they? Because the biggest issue really is you get a bunch of guys, they have no idea. They ain't getting women. They have nothing. They have nothing. They have no idea. They're on the outside looking in. I'll give you a great example of this. I was thinking about this. In fact, I wrote this in a blog well over a decade ago when I was still writing blogs on the regular. Because you get like basketball. Let me use that for an example. A lot of guys who've never played basketball, never really got into the game, at best they watch basketball, think they know the game. And they really don't. And I say this because when I was in college and when I was in school at the graduate level, when I was at St. Joe's University in Philadelphia and American University in D.C., both places, I hung out primarily with the D1, Division I basketball players. And the conversations they would have talking about basketball was a whole lot different from guys who at best would just watch the games. Like the guys who would watch the games, all they would pay attention to is somebody scoring and maybe rebounding. Just a little stuff. In fact, I've seen some people comment about that. They'll say, well, he's scoring, he can shoot that. But then knowing guys who played basketball, in fact, at St. Joe's, three of the guys I would hang out with, one of them is a Division I coach and two of them are Division I assistant coaches. In fact, I'll leave it at that. But let's just say they know basketball. And especially at St. Joseph's, I would listen to how they would just talk about the game. And they wouldn't talk about anybody scoring. They would talk about little stuff like moving without the ball, setting picks, playing good defense. And in fact, let me shout out Master Teacher BGS. His son is a semi-pro basketball player, and Master Teacher BGS played basketball himself and actually coached. And every now and then we might talk about some basketball, and he'll talk about stuff like footwork and things of that nature. But that's where he was coming from. He knows the game. He knows the game. He don't talk about just scoring baskets. He talks about other stuff. When you in the game, any game, I don't care what it is. It could be football. It could be something like football. The conversation is going to be different from those watching the game on the outside of it and those who actually play the game. Now, even when I would play pickup ball around somebody who played D1, I would get a praise not for scoring a basket, but a praise for making a good cut to the ball or cut for a pass. I remember playing in this intramural game at American with this dude who had played at Syracuse. And I never forget what he said. He praised me not for scoring a basket, but for making a good cut to the ball to get the pass. And my point with all of that is, guys who are actually players, if you're talking about man gets women, guys who are players, men who regularly get women, men who have gone through some of the little stuff, they're going to know more than some guys who don't know shit, who looking at it from the outside. Like you get a bunch of guys like the handsome man thing. Let's use that for an example. You get some guys swearing all out, all you have to do is just be handsome. In fact, sometimes you get some guys, they'll say, oh, it's just height, or it's just this or that, but they're on the outside of it. But then they don't like understand there's some guys who ain't that height getting some play. Or some guys this or that. And, you know, and it's always some guys trying to fight against it, but you trying to tell them, no. Are you in the game? Do you know it? Do you know what it takes to get women? They think, well, if you handsome or you height or tall, but yet you get some guys who are tall that way, not getting it. Yet you get some guys who might, even with body game, you get some guys who might just know how to connect with women. Because ultimately that's what it is. Body game is just bait. But here's the thing. You just got to know the game. You got some guys who just know how to get women. And they in the game. Now some guys on the outside, you get a lot of guys and they'll argue with you about it. They'll say, oh, you got to have this. You got to have this. You got to have this. Like they'll say, well, you got to be handsome. Well, how is it that you got some ugly ass dudes or some regular looking dudes getting women? Lots of women on some player stuff. Or they'll say you gotta have money. But then you got some hobosexuals out there. You wouldn't even have that term. How they getting the women? Or if all it takes is just looks or money, how come those same men getting cheated on by the women? Think about that. There's more to it. But see, the problem is you get some guys, they ain't getting no women, period. They're not qualified. I'm going to use that word qualified to tell you, because they ain't in the game themselves. Because they always talking about what somebody else did, but they can't say it for themselves. Like, I use that money example because of that clip shared by Mr. Lucario. I'll see if I can find it, put it in there. Put it in the description box. There's some guys getting money. They ain't getting no women. Kevin Samuels, like I said, one of the last conversations I had with Kevin Samuels, he was telling me about guys, either high 5 figures or 6 figures, and they were having trouble getting women. It takes more than that. And even when you see some of these guys on who billionaires, because that clip that I saw from Mr. Lucario talking with this guy, talking about billionaires getting the women. Yet, hold up, Jeff Bezos Bezos, when him and Jeff Bezos' woman was around Leonardo DiCaprio. A lot of people were talking about how that woman was up there. Now, that's just some real shit. It's some real stuff. See, players will look at little stuff. Like one thing, players in the game, they gonna look at little things. It's just like when I know those basketball players, they wouldn't even talk about somebody scoring. That'd be the last thing they would talk about. They'd be talking about defense, moving without the ball, footwork, stuff like that. Master teacher BGS. Remember talking basketball with him a few times. He was talking about some WNBA players. He said they need to work on their footwork. See, somebody, he knows that game. He knows that game. When you're talking about the game of man against woman, you got to look at little stuff to see what you see. You can't just say, oh, if you just have this. Because how many dudes that probably call themselves look maxing or something and still didn't get the women? Or some guys thinking they got some money. How come they ain't getting the women? And there's been plenty of guys who complain about that. Or if they did get the women, they double back home one day, that woman cheating on them with a guy who don't have half as much. Even when you talk about all of this stuff, it's so many little factors. See, one thing a player, if in the game of man against woman, the player's looking at little stuff. They understand stuff. And the player might have been that side man. And I've said that before in a video. A side man knows what's up. Because you get some women out here, they doing whatever. Or how's that man who might not be as tall talking about something? Instead of just listening. And speaking of which, when somebody tell you something, unless you are in the game, unless you like I use the example. I use myself for an example. And I will say this, and I mean this. Only people who could tell me anything I'm saying is wrong is a player. But yet I've had several people tell me that they have taken what I've said, went to some guys they known have been players, and it was verified. Everything I said was verified by the players, by the pimps. Yeah, take it to some guys who actually know what's up and ask them. Who's actually getting some play. Someone in my inner circle. I'll just call him Tornado. That's how we first got to know each other. Because I had an article on one of these, it's like a defunct site, and I'm saying some stuff, and a bunch of Bammers on there trying to say I ain't know what I was talking about. Yet this guy, Tornado, who was a player himself, grew up around some players, he knew everything, he knew what I was saying. He knew about the game. He had been there himself. He grew up around some players. See, one of the things is, that's why I always say the best way to really learn anything is to get out there. You got to get out there. You got to see it for yourself. That's why I always say, even with what I say, get out there and see it for yourself. Because even let me use an extreme example. You got some guys out here who can read every book on sex. They can read 100 books on sex. But trust me. It's a big difference in reading a bunch of books on sex and being a virgin and then actually having sex with a woman. Trust me. It's a whole difference on it. So that's the thing. That's the thing. You always got to look at actually be in the game. You have to be in the game itself. So that's the thing. You have to really be in the game. You can't be outside looking in because you ain't gonna see everything. You ain't gonna even know what to look for. Like I've done some, like last week I was doing some videos on reading women. I know from experience. Right? And people say, well, what book you read? I ain't read a book. I ain't read a book on that. I just interacted with some, just interacting. Decades of interactions. Watching them, paying attention. Watching them with other people. Watching them with myself. That's the only way. But see, you get some guys, they don't know. They don't know. They haven't experienced it themselves. It's like one of my mentors talked about. In fact, it was Master Yao. He talked about this in a couple of his books. He talked about an incident between select and non-select men. Now the select men, it was a place. It was one of the few times both groups were together. The select men were saying some stuff about some interactions that they had with women. The non-select men didn't believe them, and the only reason they really didn't believe them because they hadn't experienced it. In fact, Master Yao told me another situation where it was in the real world where this dude was talking about where he had experienced, he was talking about a threesome he had. But there were some guys who didn't believe the guy. But the only reason they really didn't believe him, they never had a threesome. See, a lot of dudes, they don't want to believe anything. Well, they want to believe what they want to believe. They don't want to believe something because it hadn't happened to them. Or they hadn't seen it before. And so they want to believe it. Like a lot of stuff about man gets woman out here, a lot of dudes want to believe it. Now, they know they haven't seen it before. They want to believe it. They want to believe it. Like you got some guys thinking, like when I talk about body game, every now and then you get a guy say, oh no, women just looking at faces. Well, hold up. Like there was a guy who tried to tell me, oh no, these women are just looking at your face. It was like, you didn't, motherfucker, I know what the women telling me. I know they feeling all over my body. I know what they were going crazy over. And this motherfucker didn't know the women. But that motherfucker wanted to believe what he believed. He wasn't in the game. Like dudes who talk about winning through body game, right? They know because this happened to them. Like when I do body game videos, dudes be giving testimonies. They don't just be saying, oh, well, this will happen or something. They say, well, yeah, I had my shirt off. This woman was feeling on me. They give testimonies more than anything. But they in the game. And see, guys who ain't in the game, they not in a position. What they need to do is either get in the game or shut their ass up and learn. Learn what's really going on. But that's a sad thing. You got a lot of dudes out here. They really don't know. They really don't know. And they think they know, or they trying to say something, but it's like, no, they ain't in the game. They don't know shit. They don't know shit. They don't know what happened. Like you get guys who say, well, you just gotta be handsome, but they don't consider themselves handsome. Or you just have to have money. They don't have money themselves. You know what's going to work because, shoot, like just that money thing. Like I've said it. I know it don't take money because, shit, I told you, I ain't really had money like that until recent years. Oh, shoot. Most play I ever got in my life was when I was living at my grandmother's. Living at my grandmother's, I ain't even have a steady job. Shoot, they had women paying for the motel rooms. I know that from experience. I ain't no conjecture or some shit. It actually happened. You know? And if you need to see my eyes, if you got someone who can read body language, if you need to see my eyes, or if you need this shit, you can tell if I'm telling the truth or not. If you got somebody professional at looking. Okay? So look, that's the thing. That's the thing. If you really want to know the game, you got to be in the game. That's when you really understand it, all right? So anyway, that's all I got for today. I'll get back with y'all tomorrow. Peace.